Hey everybody, Mike Toy here with Bonsai Boise. I got this little gardenia plant. I think it was a Valentine's Day special. Note the little ribbon heart thing. So I've tried these in the past, not with success, but I think I know the reason why. I'll get to that in a minute. For now, give you a look here. So it looks like there are two of them in there, possibly even three. Though the third one, I don't know if that's just a really low branch that's covered up with moss or if it's a third tree. You see some flower buds there. But it looks nice and healthy, and I thought it would be a fun little project. Just a little, something. Here's a couple of pots that I'm considering using. Since I know there's at least two in there, so I need at least two pots, maybe three. But we're gonna dig in now, see what the roots look like. Trim these up a bit. All right, last minute change. I decided I don't like that pot. I'm gonna go with this other pot. You see there, Gardenia Jazzy Mode. I don't know. Full sun, etc. So the last time that I tried these, I think I used way too much organic soil. I got this idea in my head at one point that I could do that I could mix more organics in with my soil. And I did for a while on a lot of trees, and a lot of them suffered. Some of them died, and my gardenia was one of them that died. So I think that's what it was, because the gardenia at the time was chugging along pretty good until I repotted it and put it in some really heavy organic soil. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just sort of died. I had one previous to that years ago, maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Same situation. It just sort of died out of nowhere, but it was in heavy organic soil. So this time, just going to do it the right way. I've given up my bad dream of using heavy organics. It just doesn't work the way I wanted it to, or the way I thought it would. So here all I'm doing is I'm just teasing out the soil, and I'm trying to separate these without completely destroying it. I'm just sort of working all the soil out little by little. And then there we go. So neither of them are that big. So I don't want to give a false impression that these are going to be some kind of instant beautiful bonsai. They won't, but they could be someday. And they got to start somewhere. Sometimes I like these little projects where they're not fantastic material to start with, because they don't take up much room. They're just little kind of like accent plants. You can put them on your office desk or in your windowsill or just wherever. But they're fun. And then you sort of just, I don't want to say forget about them, but they just sort of become part of the scene. And after a few years and after some time and they develop, it just happens slowly. And then one day you look at it and it's like, wow, that really looks good. And then you have a new appreciation for it. But back to this one. So the style for this first one that I'm sort of gravitating towards is not a traditional formal upright. It's more of a lean and almost, well, you can kind of see there, you can get a little preview idea where it's sort of leaning to the left or the right, depending on which direction you're looking at. But it's got a big aerial root that's going to sort of help prop it up and just, it's a unique feature, a little bit of character. And it's got another really low branch there off to the right side, you can see. So this will be a little bit of a unique looking plant. I still want it to look like a tree, like a bonsai tree. But just with some character. So all I'm doing now is I'm going through and I'm sort of figuring out the structure here of the branches. And I'm looking for any spot where there are 3 branches growing out of the same location. And then I'm just losing one of the branches because you want one to divide into 2 and then 2 into 4, etc. That way you don't get reverse taper where you get big bulges of growth in certain spots, and you want to keep it proportioned correctly. I'm also going to lose the flower buds, which is kind of a shame because it's pretty and they smell good, but they take a lot of the energy from the tree to produce. And right now, since I'm giving it a little hack job, I want to conserve as much energy on it as I can. I did lose a big branch there. It's always hard to do, but then afterward, when it's structurally correct, I'm always glad I did it. Usually. I had heard it said at one point, somebody told me that to produce flowers in those flower buds, it takes 90% of the tree's energy to produce those. So by losing it, you're saving 90% of its energy. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but I'm sure it's remotely close. It's got to take a lot of energy to produce those. I don't know how you measure that kind of thing, but I digress. So here you go. This is it's starting to take some shape now. You can kind of tell the direction that it's going and how it's going to look. One question that I get asked a lot, and that I asked a lot in the beginning too, was how much do I trim when I'm potting these up? I don't know how much to keep, how much to lose. And there's no silver bullet answer, but for the most part, I just try to balance the foliage on top with the roots below. So if I'm trimming a lot of roots, then I've got to balance that out and trim a lot of the foliage too. Because otherwise, you've got too much foliage on top. That puts a lot of demand on the roots for moisture. And if you've trimmed a lot of the roots, it can't meet that demand. And that's when the tree suffers or possibly dies. So you want to make sure you balance that out. You can get away with it a little more when it's the other way around. So if you've got a lot of roots and you lose a lot of foliage, it does sap the strength of the tree because it doesn't have as much foliage to absorb sunlight and give the roots the energy that it needs. So you might lose some roots. They might die off a little bit down there. But I think that the forgiveness is more in that scenario than the other scenario. So I'm just going to clean up my mess here. And here I'm working the soil into the roots, because what you don't want are air pockets in there. I mean, I was able to keep a lot of those roots intact, which is good. But in doing that, I got to make sure that I get the soil in there so that there's no air pockets and big clumps of roots in certain spots. I'm just going to give it a good watering here. Because of all the roots that we were able to keep, and also because of that aerial root that's coming out of the bottom there, and just the way it's structured, it's able to hold itself up pretty good. I didn't need to wire it in. I didn't need any little decorative stones to support it. It just worked out. Now I'm just sort of looking through and fine-tuning it, sticking my hand in front of the camera. Just making sure everything looks correct. A little clean up there on some nubs that I left. Sticking my hand in the camera again. Sorry, was lost in the moment. The funny thing is, and anybody who makes videos of these would probably attest the same thing. You can do these, and afterwards when you're editing the video or just watching the video, you see things that you did not see when you were working on the project. Really obvious things. You'll miss things and it's like, oh, come on, how did I, please tell me I'm going to get to that little piece right there. And you don't. It's like, huh. Just a little more fine tuning. I try to keep in mind while I'm doing that, not so much what it's going to look like now, but I try to get it in a position to where I'm thinking down the road. Like, what is this going to turn into? Which direction is this branch going? Etc. So I'm thinking long term when I make the cuts there. But that's what it looks like. So I think this one turned out pretty cool. Now it's time for the second one. The second one is much different material, as you can see. It is more of a straight upright trunk that branches off pretty dramatically, left and right, kind of a Y, kind of an exaggerated Y shape, which is not ideal in the beginning. It looks awkward. I've had trees like that many times, and it just kind of looks goofy, out of proportion, a little awkward, but it does sort of grow into itself over time. Got to get the rest of that soil out. I stuck it back just in the pot with some of the soil just to kind of hold some moisture in while I worked on the first one. Had to make some decisions here. See that big clump of roots at the bottom and then a lot of bare trunk going up to like a second plane of roots. It puts me in a predicament. We'll have to decide how to handle that. Do I take the plunge and get rid of that bottom clump and keep the top plane? It's risky. It's a lot of roots we're cutting. So here I'm just losing some of the newer growth. The older growth is tougher, can withstand stuff like this better than new growth. In general, I mean. As for the roots, being real indecisive, and in the end I decide, no, I'm going to lose the top plane, stick with the bottom. Felt like the trunk was a little too short otherwise. But it looks a little naked and bare down there now too, where it was covered up with roots before. So that'll take a little time to harden off and look good, but we'll get there. I don't like how long and straight that one on the left is. But we'll have to address that another day. The name of the game today is just to get them in shape, get them potted up, and then let them reestablish themselves. I don't want to get more drastic than I have to by wiring up branches and that kind of thing. So I'll save that for a later date. For now, we'll just get it potted up, let it get healthy again. I don't do a lot of combing out of the roots and whatnot at this stage. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying I don't. To me, it's too early. I'll let it get reestablished and let it sort of start off on its journey first. Although, I will say, it's not that I never would. Because sometimes you get in there and you see opportunity to do it. But I would say primarily when I'm starting a tree off on its bonsai journey, I focus a lot more on just getting it started and kind of regaining its health, because, I don't know what these trees go through before they get to me. I imagine they go from one warehouse to another warehouse kind of thing. I don't, at least I wouldn't guess that Walmart employees take super good care of them. I mean, I'm just guessing that. I don't know. Maybe they do. But long story short, I try to get the structure of it headed in the right direction, correct any type of issues that are going to cause inverse taper and that type of thing. So I try to get that going first. But if I do see some opportunity for root work, and I don't think it will interfere too much with the health, then I take it. But I have found from experience that you do too much to a tree right off the bat, it really increases its chances of not surviving. But anyways, back to this. I'm just doing the same process as I did on the first one, just working the soil into the roots, making sure there's no air pockets. Once I got that pretty well established, then I give it a good rinse all the dust off of the leaves, make sure it is not just thoroughly watered, but watered so much that whatever dust is in that soil hopefully rinses out. I really don't even show the whole watering process. I show it to the point where it's draining, but typically once I get to that point, I'll take it to the sink or a hose and I'll really, really douse it from there, just until the water that is draining comes out clear, because at first it's kind of cloudy and dirty looking. So I'm going to put a few supportive rocks on here, some decorative supporting rocks, just because this one is a little more top heavy and a little skinnier, so it's flimsy, wanting to fall all over the place. So that should hold it into place better. And there they are, in all their prime glory. So like I said, these aren't show quality trees or anything. This is just the beginning of a long journey toward becoming respectable bonsai trees. But it just goes to show you can pick up a plant just when you're out grocery shopping, bring it home and get it started on a bonsai journey. And they make good little accent plants, like I was mentioning before. You put it on your desk, you put it on the kitchen table, whatever. They're just pretty little things to have around. So that's it. Those are my 2 new gardenias. I'll keep you updated. If you haven't liked or subscribed to the channel yet, please do. You'll see updates on these and any others that I've done. I've got a lot of varieties of trees, so you can see my process for some of those other trees as well. So I want to thank everybody who does like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day.